Well, happy Friday, everyone. Today I'm gonna make a riff on a Boulevardier. A Boulevardier is typically similar to the Negroni, a 3-spirit cocktail incorporating bourbon or rye, Campari, and sweet vermouth. I've changed it up a little bit in that I have infused the Campari with cacao nibs, giving it a very chocolatey overtone without sweetening it at all. I'm also gonna lessen the amount of vermouth that I use and incorporate a little bit of my homemade creme de cacao. Now you might recall a few weeks ago I made a Rolo. I'll put a link at the end of this video in which I made a creme de cacao and mixed it with caramel whiskey to give kind of a candy-ish type of cocktail. This is going in a very different direction using similar ingredients without getting super sweet. This is not a dessert cocktail. It's gonna be an aperitif, but it's gonna have elements of chocolate in it, which make it really rich and really delicious. So let's get this thing started. First off, I'm going to put in 1 ounce of my chocolate infused Campari. So to make this, I actually recycled the cacao nibs from my homemade creme de cacao. Once I was done with that, I put the cacao nibs back into a mason jar, put about 500 milliliters of Campari to about 200 grams of cacao nibs, and let it sit for about 2 weeks. The rich chocolatey tones that came off of that are just fantastic. And this makes Campari a beautiful beverage just on its own. And I know most people are a little standoffish about Campari. It tends to be incredibly bitter. The chocolate cacao nibs soften the bitterness without sweetening it. Next, we're gonna add ½ ounce of a sweet vermouth. Now, Boulevardier normally calls for a full ounce of the vermouth, but I'm gonna use a half and then add an additional ½ ounce of my homemade creme de cacao. And next comes my bourbon. I am using an overproof bourbon on this, broken barrel, and I'm gonna do 1.5 ounces. Now, Boulevardier normally has a little bit more bourbon than, say, a Negroni would with gin. A Negroni is typically equal parts gin, sweet vermouth, and Campari. Whereas a Boulevardier normally would have maybe 1.25 ounces-ish. I'm upping that just a little bit to counteract the chocolate. Again, I don't want this to be a sweet beverage. I don't want this to be a dessert cocktail. I still want this to be an aperitif. And that's why I'm using a little bit more bourbon and also a higher proof. This is a 116 proof bourbon. So pretty strong. It's gonna pack some punch. Gonna be mellowed out by both my creme de cacao and the chocolate infused Campari. Next, we're gonna stir that over ice. It's not gonna take a lot of stirring, maybe 30 seconds or so. Really, you'll know that it's ready when your mixing tin gets cold to touch, especially if you're using a stainless steel mixing tin, because that really carries the temperature through your hand. Strain this into a double rocks glass with a nice clear ice cube. This past week, I actually dropped a video on how to make these clear ice cubes. I highly recommend you check those out. I've got a link in the description. And for garnish, we're gonna keep it nice and simple, a single cocktail cherry. And there we have it, a delicious chocolate Boulevardier. Cheers. I love this drink so very much. The chocolate overtones are rich and strong. Sweetness is not high at all. This is a stiff drink, but yet those rich chocolate overtones just really mellow it out. A little bit of that cocktail cherry syrup landed in there, mixing with the chocolate, kind of giving me a cherry chocolate vibe. It is just a delicious beverage. If you enjoy these videos, please help me out by liking and subscribing to this channel. It really helps the algorithm out and gets these videos farther and farther, so increase my viewership so I can make more of these for you. If you feel up to it, go ahead and put in the comment section what you'd like to see, and I'll definitely take a look at those and consider them for future videos. But until then, cheers to you and have a fantastic weekend.